Welcome back. Today I want to talk about one of the biggest deterrents in our success journey, and that is self-sabotage through our personal programming. So every single one of us is running a program within our brain, our mind, and it's creating our entire experience. And this is something that a lot of people may hear about, read about, and even understand to a degree, but it still doesn't prevent many people from stopping the program, from knowing what to do to direct it, to go in a different way, to stop the self-sabotage. And that's what I wanted to talk about. A tool of assistance that can help you to stop that self-sabotage and to begin to reprogram your mindset and your experience and rewire your brain to experience something completely different than what self-sabotage has led you to or is leading you to. So our program, every single day of our experience, comes from and is reiterated from and is repeated from the stories that we tell ourselves. And we have a story for every experience in our life. Every moment of every day, there's a dialogue an internal dialogue in your head, in your mind, about whatever it is that you're dealing with or experiencing. An interaction with another person, or if you're at work, an interaction with a coworker, or if you see something in the street, or if you're just holding a kitten, everything that you are doing, you attach a story to it, and that story is what creates the program within about that experience, and that's why you experience it the same way. So let me try to explain this a little bit easier. So let's talk about drama, because that's something that there's some people that have a very drama filled life, other people that have no drama in their life. Some people fall in between. But where does it come from? Where's drama created? And drama is always created within. So no matter what happens out on the outside, it's the story that we attach to the situation that creates the drama in our life. And recognizing that is always the first step to seeing that we're creating this. We're creating this experience to be something that it doesn't have to be. And by removing the story from whatever happened, the personal story, we remove drama. And right away we experience that situation way differently than had we attached a story to it. So an example I could give is, let's say somebody that maybe is an acquaintance of yours, and they make an assumption, right? They make an assumption about you that may or may not be true. Let's say, for the sake of this conversation, it's not true. And instead of you approaching the situation with the individual, you start to create a story about why they did that. And the story could be, oh, they're a hater, or they don't like me, or they're trying to, mess up my life, or, you can make 1,000,001 reasons in your head as to why this is happening, right? And then that you could take and go talk about it to your friend. Be like, oh, so-and-so is talking about me. And then now their story and your story creates an even bigger story of the reason why it's happening. That's just a really small example of how your story will create a certain narrative that you believe. And, you know, let's say you talk about it to somebody else, that'll create an even bigger narrative that now you both believe together. And every time you see the individual, it will be in your head. There'll be like a drama. There'll be almost like this invisible beef, you know, with you and this person, right? Where if you just sit back for a minute and say, okay, what is happening? I heard that this person's saying something about me. Maybe I should first find out if it's true. Second, inquire if you care. Or third, leave it alone. It's something that it can only affect you however much you allow it to affect you, right? So in that situation, acknowledging the story that you're telling yourself, acknowledging the story that you're telling yourself, even about other situations or about yourself. One of the biggest programs that run by default every single day is who we think we are to ourselves. These stories that we tell ourselves in our head aren't just about other people. They're usually also about ourselves. So the story that we're telling ourselves about ourselves every single day, every time you look in the mirror, every time you get up in the morning, every time you go to sleep, every time you have an interaction with somebody else, there's a story there that you're telling yourself. So it could be a good thing, or it could be a not so good thing, but no matter what it is creating your experience. It's creating that program, and everything that you put in there is adding another element to that program and to keep going. And if it's something that you are not appreciating, or you're not loving, or you feel like your experience could really use some improvement, then it always starts with the stories that you're telling yourselves about situations outside of you and about your belief system within yourself. So one of the first things I would suggest is to acknowledge. Just acknowledge when you have certain thoughts about experiences that aren't necessarily true. And how do you know if they're not true? Because you haven't looked at all of the sides of the equation. It might just be something that you're feeling, okay? Just like when we were talking about, if you hear somebody else is saying something about you, you create a whole narrative that it's because this person doesn't like you, or it's because this person's a hater, or it's because whatever it is that you tell yourself, that might not be true. And if that's not true, then you're creating this whole reality on top of a lie, or on top of a fib, or on top of fabrication. And unfortunately, the majority of people do this. So there's so much that's created based on nothing, right? So there's no substance to it. And that's also goes for yourself. So self-sabotage always comes from the stories that we're telling ourselves about our experience. And our experience comes from that program. And that program can always be changed if you are willing to acknowledge that your pattern of thoughts and your pattern of beliefs and your pattern of stories that you're telling yourself are creating your program. So it's like a big circle, right? It's a big circle. And the only way that it's going to change is if you choose to change it. And in this case, you stop putting stories or attaching stories to everything that happens. Try to just see what it is. See it for what it is. Let's say in that situation, somebody's talking about you. Explore it. Remove the emotion from it. See it for what it is. See if it's worthy of your first attention. Most often we give our attention just too freely to, honestly, like things that just are not beneficial for us at all. So pay attention to your stories. Really pay attention to what you're saying to yourself, what you're saying about others to yourself. and how it is playing into your experience every single day. And try to change the patterns so it actually recreates a different program and a different belief system. And so you don't attach yourself to a story and then let it take you wherever it's going to go. You are very mindful of what is happening, and then you choose to react or act accordingly to what you want the outcome to be, because you have the power to change any outcome with your story and with your program. So that is something I want to touch on today. Pay attention to your stories. Just because it's something that you're telling yourself doesn't make it real. But what I can tell you is that what you are telling yourself will feel like it's real, and will create your reality. And that could either be a really good thing or a really bad thing, depending on the stories that you're telling yourself.